Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, coming to you once again from beautiful sunny Florida. You know, unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about something that's not so sunny. There's been another mass shooting, this time at a school in Canada, in British Columbia. I believe now the confirmed number dead is 10, 25 wounded. But within hours, if you can believe it, the story wasn't about the shooting anymore. The story wasn't about the victims. It was about what pronouns to use for the killer. I kid you not. The Canadian legacy media are so deranged in their ideological wokeness that they could make MSNBC look like Fox News. Okay, so if you don't know what happened, an 18-year-old biological male named Jesse Van Rootselaar walked into Tumbler Ridge Secondary School in British Columbia and opened fire, killing 8 and injuring 25. That shooter was later found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a nearby residence alongside 2 additional victims. So we have 10 dead total. Now, needless to say, the shooter had a documented history of serious mental health issues. The shooter had been in psychiatric care. Where things get crazy here is that he identified as transgender and he showed up to the shooting scene wearing a dress. And that's where the legacy media just, I don't know how to put it, they basically lost its mind. When the Royal Canadian Mounted Police first addressed the public, they described the shooter, I kid you not, as this. Take a look.
That includes the deceased gun person.
Okay. And then separately, do you know the gun person's relationship to the...
A gun person. That's right. You heard that right. Only from woke liberal cultures will you ever hear the term I'm sure you're all familiar with gunman, right? But not according to Canadian officials. No, now we have gun persons. And then we were told by officials that the suspect was a female wearing a dress. I'm going to move back up this way. Multiple major outlets, New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press, they all ran with it, okay, calling Van Rootselaar a woman. What makes this bizarre is that Canadian police knew immediately that Jesse Van Rootselaar was biologically male. So that's the key. The police knew, and yet their initial statement about the gun person was factually incorrect. It was to use female pronouns and describe the suspect as a woman in a dress, language specifically chosen to obscure the shooter's biological sex. The next bizarre moment happened when the truth actually did start coming out, when we started learning that this was indeed yet another trans shooter. What this CBC reporter that I'm about to show you, this Canadian broadcasting reporter's take on this, it is utterly stupefying. Take a look.
Initially, when the active shooter alert went out, police said that they were looking for a female with brown hair wearing a dress, but we have not heard anything more from police about a possible suspect. Also, careful not to call the person a gunman, because we know that there was an active shooter alert, but police have not actually told us exactly how any of the people were killed or how any of them were injured. We don't know if any other weapons were involved.
And as I understand it right now, there's no confirmation that we will, in fact, hear from law enforcement officials today. So we are waiting to see whether or not that does happen and whether or not we get more details about all of this. But
so according to the CBC, don't you dare call Van Rootselaar a gunman. Don't you dare do that. We don't even know how those people died. How all 10 of those people, we have no idea. We don't know. You can't call them a gun. Whatever you do not call this person a gunman. And the Canadian media went on to basically have the same nonsensical virtue signaling fit that our legacy media always has in the midst of trans shooter horrors. Don't you dare, don't even think about misgendering this gun person. Now I'm going to show you their exact playbook. I'm going to show you exactly why they collapse into these woke antics every single time, and this is going to make you very mad.
Emergencies don't wait for perfect conditions. I mean, one wrong turn, one breakdown, one unexpected storm, and suddenly you're fighting the cold instead of getting help. That's why this tiny little orange bag matters, because inside, if you can believe it, like magic, is this full-size, heat-reflective emergency sleeping bag designed to trap body heat and protect you in extreme conditions. I've tried it myself, gang. It is so warm. It's amazing. It's waterproof. It's windproof. Bright orange, so rescuers can spot you fast. Emergency experts recommend having one for every family member. It weighs almost nothing. It fits in your glove box or go bag, and it works when everything else fails. Sierra Madre engineered them to be compact, affordable, and more advanced than bulky sleeping bags. They weigh 10 times less than a typical sleeping bag, but they're 7 feet long and 3 feet wide, so they'll fit anyone. A typical sleeping bag would cost you well over $200. Right now, they're marked down over 59% with free shipping on multi-packs. You won't find these in stores. They're available right here. Get your family ready today and save a bundle before the sale ends. Oh, and I almost forgot, the 10-pack ships free, doubling up your savings. Click below and make sure your family has real protection when it matters most.
Now, of course, this is the same exact pattern that we saw, for example, with the Covenant school shooting in Nashville back in 2023, when Audrey Hale, a biological female who identified as male, killed 6 people, including 3 9-year-old children at a Christian school. The FBI fought, this was during the Biden era, the FBI fought for 2 years to suppress Hale's manifesto and writings, which we now know were clearly racial and religious in their motivation for murder. And the legacy media spent more time and energy debating Hale's pronouns than investigating the motive. In fact, it's worse than that. That's just where the insanity begins. If you recall, the legacy media actually tried to blame the Daily Wire, which is in Nashville, for the shootings. The transphobia, the supposed transphobia of the Daily Wire apparently drove Audrey Hale to kill those kids. That according to the legacy media. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And a lot of analysts miss this step in the repeatable pattern we see with every trans shooter, but it's the most important step of all. So step 1, initial reports by the media deliberately obscure the shooter's biological sex. Step 2, outlets that do report accurately are accused of transphobia. Step 3, the story quietly disappears from the news cycle faster than any other mass shooting. Step 4, anyone who asks a question about the connection between severe gender dysphoria or psychiatric instability and violence gets labeled a bigot, phobic, all that sort of stuff. What's missed here is how the trans community is immediately turned into the victim. They're the victim, while the real victims, the shooting victims, are completely discarded from the story, particularly if they are white and Christian, like we saw in Nashville. And what you see there with the media is an asymmetrical use of group identity in the framing of the story. So if the shooter is a white male, then it's all about blaming the group. It's white supremacy. That's the media weeps and gnashes their teeth for days, for weeks, hysterically obsessing over how systematically racist our nation is. Now we need to crack down on hate groups if the shooter is a white male. But if the shooter is a member of a protected left-wing identity group, like a trans shooter or a Muslim shooter, then you cannot blame the group. If you try to, you're an absolute bigot. You will be immediately pathologized. Don't you even ever think of blaming the group. How dare you? These are individuals. You can't blame a group for what individuals do. And then to close the loop, those individuals are just responding to the hate of the group the victims belong to. So the shooters and the groups they represent are the real victims. Again, you can't make this stuff up, but it's actually rather simple. The pattern exposes the fact that the legacy media does everything they possibly can to cover up far left murderous violence. The legacy media is dedicated to the radical ideology known as progressive realism. And progressive realists see the arc of history bending inevitably toward a far left vision of social justice. So left-wing groups are always by definition on the right side of history, while right-wing groups are always by definition on the wrong side of history. So when right-wing groups commit heinous crimes, well, that's just par for the course of being on the wrong side of history. But what happens when the far left commits heinous acts of violent murder? Well, that could have the effect of refuting progressive realism, couldn't it? Certainly for the vast majority of the population. So the legacy media does everything they can to bury it and distract you and lie to you. Now, unfortunately for them, both here and even increasingly in Canada, that's already happened. Progressive realism is dead. It lives only in the antics of progressives posing as press. In the meantime, the media will continue with their woke charades, while the rest of us gladly tune them out. God bless.